This topic is a powerful reminder for every woman who's been playing small, doubting her worth, or settling for less than she deserves. It's not about arrogance, it's about awareness. The phrase, "You are a queen, start acting like one," is a call to rise, to own your power, and to carry yourself with the confidence and grace that commands respect, not demands it. It's about mindset, boundaries, self-worth, and the silent strength that shifts everything the moment you decide to stop shrinking. Recognizing your worth before anyone else does is the foundation of self-respect and personal power. It begins with understanding that your value does not depend on how others see you, what they say about you, or how they treat you. It comes from knowing deep within that you are enough as you are, that you do not need to perform, please, or prove your importance to anyone. Many people spend their lives waiting for someone else to acknowledge their worth, waiting for approval, validation, or recognition that never seems to come, and in doing so, they hand over control of their identity to others. The truth is, when you don't know who you are, the world will tell you, and it will often underestimate you. Recognizing your worth means you stop giving that power away. You begin to move differently. You stop chasing love, attention, or acceptance because you realize that what you were seeking from others has been within you the entire time. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's standing tall, not because someone told you to, but because you finally see yourself clearly. When you recognize your worth, you begin to make different choices. You stop settling for half-hearted efforts from people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop apologizing for wanting more because you know that wanting more doesn't make you greedy. It makes you self-aware. You stop bending yourself to fit spaces that were never built to hold your growth. You no longer chase validation because your peace becomes more valuable than someone's opinion. The way you speak changes. You no longer use language that minimizes your strength or softens your truth just to make others comfortable. You communicate from a place of confidence and calm because you know that your voice has weight. The way you show up changes too. You walk into rooms not asking for acceptance, but carrying it within you. You sit at tables and speak without shrinking, not because you think you are above anyone else, but because you finally stopped treating yourself as beneath them. Recognizing your worth teaches you patience because you stop rushing into spaces where you aren't respected. You learn to wait for alignment instead of begging for attention. You learn to walk away from what doesn't serve you, not out of anger, but out of understanding that your energy is sacred. You learn to forgive yourself for the times you ignored your own intuition, for the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken, for the times you settled when you knew you deserved more. You begin to rebuild trust with yourself, and that trust becomes your foundation. The more you honor your own worth, the less interested you become in proving it. The more you see yourself as valuable, the less tolerance you have for people who treat you like you are not. Recognizing your worth shifts the energy around you because the world begins to mirror what you believe about yourself. When you truly understand your value, you attract people, opportunities, and experiences that reflect it because you finally refuse to entertain anything less. Stopping apologizing for being powerful is about reclaiming the space you were always meant to occupy without guilt or hesitation. It is the moment you decide that your strength is not something to hide, but something to honor. For too long, many people, especially women, have been taught to shrink themselves, to soften their voice, to hold back their brilliance just to make others comfortable. They apologize for their ambition, their confidence, their opinions, their presence, as if existing in their full potential is something to feel sorry for. But real growth begins when you stop apologizing for being too much and start realizing that you were never too much, they were simply not enough to handle your light. Power isn't loud or aggressive, it's a quiet knowing of who you are and what you bring to the table. When you stop apologizing for that, everything changes. You start speaking with authority instead of asking for permission. You stop diluting your ideas to avoid judgment. You stop saying sorry for taking up space that you rightfully earned. You understand that humility and confidence can coexist, that being proud of yourself is not arrogance, it's self-respect. When you stop apologizing for being powerful, you stop living small just to make others feel big. You realize that your power doesn't diminish anyone else's. It simply reminds them of their own potential. You become unapologetic about your goals, your dreams, your standards, and your voice. You start saying no without guilt and yes without hesitation. You no longer feel the need to justify your decisions to people who haven't lived your experiences. You begin to understand that being powerful is not about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. You stop reacting to everything that tries to provoke you, because real power is calm. It doesn't need to prove itself. You start setting boundaries that reflect your worth, and you stop letting guilt manipulate you into breaking them. You begin to notice how many times you used to say sorry just to avoid conflict, just to keep the peace, even when you weren't wrong. You recognize that constantly apologizing for existing fully is a subtle form of self-rejection. The moment you stop doing that, you begin to see yourself differently. Your body language changes, your tone changes, your energy shifts. People around you notice that you carry yourself with certainty, that you no longer shrink to fit their comfort zones. Some will misunderstand it, some will call it pride, but that's because they were comfortable with the version of you that doubted herself. Your power will challenge those who live in their insecurities, but it will also inspire those who are ready to rise. When you stop apologizing for being powerful, you start moving with intention. You stop explaining your dreams to people who can't see your vision. You realize that your light doesn't need validation. It only needs space to shine. You stop seeking permission to grow, to lead, to speak, to succeed. And instead, you start owning every room you walk into, knowing you have every right to be there. Building boundaries that protect your peace is one of the most empowering acts of self-love because it is the process of choosing yourself without apology. It is understanding that not everyone deserves access to you, your time, your energy, or your emotions. For a long time, people are taught that kindness means always saying yes, always being available, always giving until there's nothing left to give. But real kindness is balanced with self-respect. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are gates designed to protect what matters inside. When you start building boundaries, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You begin to notice what drains you, who leaves you anxious, and what habits rob you of peace. You start saying no, not out of anger, but out of clarity, because your time and energy are valuable and not everyone knows how to treat them that way. You learn that you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions or fixing their chaos. You begin to understand that every time you allow someone to overstep your limits, you teach them how to treat you. Building boundaries is not easy at first because it forces you to face the fear of being misunderstood or disliked. You might lose people who benefited from your lack of boundaries, and that loss will feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. You begin to see that protecting your peace sometimes means disappointing others, and you learn to be okay with that. You stop trying to explain your decisions to those who refuse to understand. You realize that peace is not found by avoiding problems, but by choosing not to invite unnecessary ones. You begin to create a life where you no longer operate from exhaustion or resentment. You learn to rest without guilt, to disconnect without explanation, to take space when you need it. Boundaries teach others how to love you properly because they are built from a place of self-awareness. You stop letting people use guilt as a tool to control you, and you no longer mistake self-sacrifice for loyalty. You understand that saying yes to everything is not strength, it is fear of rejection disguised as generosity. As your boundaries strengthen, your confidence grows because you know you can trust yourself to stand up for what you need. You stop seeking peace in other people's approval because you've created it within yourself. You learn that distance can be a form of protection and silence can be a form of power. You begin to feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of other people's expectations. You understand that true peace comes when you choose yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a necessary one. The more you honor your boundaries, the more respect you attract. People start to treat you differently because they sense your strength. You are no longer easily manipulated or persuaded because you know what you will and will not accept. Building boundaries becomes an act of freedom, a declaration that you will no longer trade your peace for connection, validation, or acceptance. Walking with confidence, not permission, is about realizing that you were never meant to wait for anyone to tell you that you're enough. It is understanding that confidence doesn't come from what you achieve or what others think about you. It comes from knowing who you are and standing firm in that truth. Too many people hold back their potential because they are waiting for approval that may never come. They wait for someone to validate their choices, their dreams, their voice. But true confidence begins when you stop waiting and start moving. It's when you realize that no one is going to hand you permission to live fully. You have to give it to yourself. When you walk with confidence, you don't walk faster or louder. You walk with certainty. You stop hesitating before speaking up. Stop questioning your own worth in rooms you've earned your way into. Stop dimming your light so others don't feel small beside you. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's quiet power. It's showing up without needing to announce your greatness. It's allowing your presence to speak for itself. When you start walking with confidence, your energy shifts. You stop overthinking every move and start trusting your instincts. You stop fearing rejection because you know it doesn't define you. You begin to carry yourself with self-assurance because you finally believe that you belong wherever you are. Walking with confidence also means accepting your flaws and imperfections instead of hiding them. It's knowing that being authentic is more powerful than being perfect. It's standing tall even when you're uncertain because you trust that you'll handle whatever comes. You no longer seek validation in the eyes of others because you've already validated yourself. You understand that people who are truly confident don't need to prove anything. They simply show up as they are. This kind of confidence draws respect because it's genuine. It doesn't shout for attention, it commands it. When you walk with confidence, your decisions become clearer because they're not clouded by fear or doubt. You stop second-guessing your value and you stop apologizing for taking up space. You no longer wait to be chosen because you choose yourself. You stop explaining your purpose to people who don't see your vision because you know not everyone is meant to understand your journey. You start to move differently, with intention, with calm, with belief. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable and instead start inspiring them to stand taller. Confidence isn't built overnight. It's built every time you push through fear, every time you speak, even when your voice shakes, every time you keep going when things don't go as planned. Each moment you stand your ground, you strengthen that muscle. Confidence grows in silence, in discipline, in resilience. It's knowing that you can start again, that you can fail and still not lose your value. It's walking into every situation with the mindset that you already have what it takes and you don't need anyone's permission to prove it. Leading your life like a queen, not a follower, is about stepping into a mindset of self-direction, independence, and emotional maturity. It means choosing to live intentionally rather than reacting to whatever life throws your way. A queen doesn't wait to be saved or guided. She takes ownership of her path. She leads herself through discipline, grace, and vision. She doesn't move with the crowd or get lost in comparison because she knows her journey is her own. Leading your life like a queen starts with self-awareness, knowing your values, your strengths, and your purpose, and using that understanding to make decisions that align with who you truly are. You stop letting temporary emotions dictate permanent choices. You start setting goals that reflect your highest standards, not what others expect of you. You understand that leadership begins with how you manage yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you treat yourself when no one's watching. A queen knows that leadership isn't about control, it's about influence, and the first person she influences is herself. She leads with calmness, not chaos, with confidence, not ego. She doesn't chase people or approval because she is too focused on building her vision. She surrounds herself with those who match her energy, not those who drain it. She knows that solitude is not loneliness, but strategy, a time to reflect, recharge, and realign. Leading your life like a queen also means understanding that not every battle deserves your attention and not every opinion deserves your response. You learn the power of selective focus, choosing peace over reaction and progress over distraction. You stop living for the applause and start living for your purpose. You understand that leadership comes with responsibility and you hold yourself accountable for your actions and energy. You become the kind of person who inspires others without even trying, simply because of the way you carry yourself. You don't follow trends, you set standards, you don't compete with others, you compete with your past self. You stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. You learn to stand firm even when people misunderstand your strength, and you stay grounded even when things go your way. You realize that leading your life like a queen means making tough choices, walking away from things that no longer serve you, saying no when it's easier to say yes, staying consistent when it's tempting to quit. You begin to measure success not by external achievements, but by inner peace. You take pride in your growth, in your ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times life tried to break you. You trust yourself more deeply because you've seen what you can survive and still rise from. You stop chasing validation because you understand that true leadership doesn't seek to impress, it seeks to impact. You walk with vision, you act with intention, and you carry yourself in a way that commands respect without ever demanding it. You lead from within, knowing that the energy you bring sets the tone for everything and everyone around you.